So my name is Chris Rogers. I'm a senior technology evangelist at Zerto. Again, I'm allowed to call them Zerto because we've already done the Hewlett Packard Enterprise company piece. And joined with me is Matt Bernhardt, who is a global solutions architect for our cyber resilience vault. So he'll be doing a section later on as well. So today we're going to be talking about achieving ransomware resilience with Zerto. And I appreciate that some of you may not know who we are. You know, we are a data protection company. We may not have been in the same circles of of IT. We might not have crossed paths and things like that. So I wanted to do a very brief kind of introduction. I know there are a couple of delegates in the room who are very familiar with us, but maybe it's your first time seeing our name or the first time that you've come across our technology as well. So I want to kind of run you through um, kind of who we are, what we do a little bit first before we then dive into some of the more of the ransomware pieces. Um, so what does Zerto really do? Well, continuous availability from edge to cloud is what our tagline is, if you will. But we focus on three major key areas or use cases, if you will. So the first one being disaster recovery, and that's where our roots are really born. They were born in disaster recovery, so I think 12 years ago, I think it was when we were founded. Essentially, our founders decided that we could do disaster recovery better, right? There's better ways of doing what we were doing, and so we set on this journey to make DR better. And on the way, we've picked up multi-cloud mobility by adding, various different platforms from AWS, Azure, Hyper-V, Google Cloud, etc. You name the platform. We hopefully will support it for you. And then from that journey from disaster recovery, multi-cloud mobility, this thing called ransomware pops up, and suddenly we realized that actually ransomware is just another form of a disaster. It obviously manifests itself in different ways and causes different types of issues, and essentially causes havoc, but in many different ways. And one tiny little firewall can change how it appears from attack one to attack two, etc., etc. But we understand that actually the goal is essentially the same: recover your data to a point in time, hopefully the quickest point in time before something has occurred, as quickly as possible. That's essentially the goal of ransomware resilience and ransomware recovery: is get your data back as quickly as you can, minimizing downtime, minimizing data loss. And we feel that the roots that we have in disaster recovery are very much focused on those two aspects, RPO and RTO. All of that is underpinned by a technology called continuous data protection. Now I've said continuous data protection in its entirety. I'm going to call it CDP from now on because we love acronyms in the IT industry. Zerto loves them more than anyone. I think everything we have is an acronym. But CDP for short, and I'm gonna cover CDP in a little more detail and kind of give you the behind the scenes of how it works and what it actually is. And then on top of that, and wrapped around it, is a layer of orchestration, automation, and analytics. And I don't think you can have large-scale data recovery or large-scale ransomware resilience without automation and orchestration. And obviously, analytics is incredibly important to see what's going on in your environment on a constant basis. So a little bit of a brag slide, I suppose, but we've been the leader in disaster recovery since 2011, when we entered the market, pretty much, eliminating data loss and downtime with CDP, as I've mentioned. So we're a software-only hypervisor or cloud-based replication solution. Is first of all, that's what we do. I'm completely flexible, always on protection, without any vendor or storage lock-in, and I'll cover that in a bit more detail again. Delivering RPOs of seconds and RTOs of minutes, and again, we're going to cover all this in a bit more detail, but this is just the high level to get you whet your appetite a little bit, understand what we do, how we do things. And then fully orchestrated failover, failback, non-disruptive testing of virtual machines, multi-VM stacks, and files and folders. And I wanted to pop up a few surprising stats that I saw today. I know everyone on this room knows what ransomware is and knows how impactful it is, but maybe you don't know the data protection angle of it, right? Maybe you don't know exactly that piece. So the four stats I wanted to point out, which I thought were quite impactful when I read them, that 94% of ransomware attacks actively tried to compromise backups. So it wasn't like an accidental thing that they managed to go and get hold of their ransomware, their backup system, and happen to stumble across it. They're actively trying to go after their backup systems, right? That's the highest number that I've seen for a long time in a statistic, 94%. And actually, nearly 60% of those that were attacked were successful in compromising those backups. I think that's maybe not unacceptable, but maybe not unsurprising as well, unfortunately. But actually, your way out is your backups or your disaster recovery or your data protection system. But if in 60% of those cases, they weren't able to use that because they were compromised. And then organizations who were compromised were twice as likely to pay the ransom because guess what? They haven't got any other way out, right? They're kind of stuffed. They don't really have another option, right? You're backed into a corner between a rock and a hard place. Do you fund cyber activity or do you try and recover from other means, maybe a tape or maybe something even older than you have lying around? And then when the backups were compromised, the ransomware recovery costs increased eightfold. So it's a problem, and a problem that we're not really getting a handle on, based on those statistics. Ransomware isn't a new thing; it's been around for a long time. Attacks have been around for a long time, well documented. Very large corporations being hit, and with lessons learned and published white papers and everything else in the marketplace that's out there over the last 10 years on ransomware and data protection, etc. Yet these stats are very recent, so March 2024, and we're still not really winning this battle, are we? It feels like we're not winning this battle. So this is where Zerto comes into it. So we've got 3 pillars of ransomware resilience with Zerto. You are going to see this slide a lot today, so I apologize. It kind of frames the conversation a bit more. But so the first one being replicate and detect, the second one being isolate and lock, and the third one being test and recover. So we are going to go into those in detail, and those are going to be our sections for today. And we'll introduce some solutions and some architectures and stuff like that later on. And then my colleague Matt is going to join me in a bit to go over the cyber resilience vault, which I'll do a little soft intro later on in the presentation.